Hey, what's up everyone? Nick from the Karate Playbook here, and tomorrow my wife and I are going to Hawaii. So yeah, we're gonna take a little bit and soak in some of that beautiful Maui sunshine. But before we head out, I wanna take a little while and put out the video so many of you have been asking about, which is the Deceptive Speed video. So Deceptive Speed, if you haven't seen any of the previous videos where I've been hinting at this, it's the idea that instead of always improving your muscle speed, which can take a long time to really make a difference with, you're gonna improve your speed by hiding your technique a little bit better and getting the technique to be harder to see so it appears to be faster to the other person. Now I'm gonna give you 5 different ways that we can do this in this video. Some of them will be pretty simple, pretty basic. Some will be a little bit more difficult, but there's definitely one towards the end of the video that you don't wanna miss because it is a game changer. The first time I hit somebody with it, we both stopped fighting immediately and we're just kind of blown away by how effective it is. So now, as I go into it, just like the last video, I will put timestamps down in the bottom. So if you want to skip ahead, if you don't want a lot of details, you can just jump right to the next section. If you want a little bit more details, watch through the whole video and I'll kind of help you in picking up the idea and learning the first little bit about it. All right, so jumping into the first one, this is more about our footwork. So a lot of this is gonna be based on how our body moves, and we're gonna use the jab as our primary example as the technique I'm trying to land. So if we're in our stance and we're bouncing this way, now one of the things that we're taught at a very beginner level is that in any direction, if I want to move forward, my front foot's going to move, my rear foot's going to follow. If I'm going to go backwards, back foot, and then front foot. So whichever direction, I'm going to use the closest foot, which is without question a really great way to do it. But right now, we're going to kind of break that rule a little bit. So if I want to throw a jab, I'm going to be moving around, but I'm going to slowly kind of start to sneak this back foot up a little bit. Now, I don't want my body to change positions. So I don't want to hide my technique by stepping up like this. And you're gonna see that really easily. You're gonna see my head change levels. All I wanna do is try to go almost from this neutral position, almost to like a really bad back stance. But if you notice, my head doesn't really change positions much. So if I'm bouncing here, you'll notice just this back foot just pulls in slightly. This is something you might want to hide with moving your hands a little bit, maybe putting out a little bit of a pump fake. But if we're here, you can't really see that back foot very much, and it's already happened where it slid up to here. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you can cover an extra 4 to 6 inches of distance with this, it's going to be extraordinarily helpful. The second thing that will really be helpful with this is that since this leg is closer and I have more weight on it, I have more explosion off of it. So it's like compressing a spring even tighter. It's gonna allow me to shoot forward faster and easier. So this one is closing the gap, these 4 inches, because if I go from here and I move this foot up, it does get me a little bit closer, which makes my technique seem faster because it's starting from a closer distance. All right, so now we're gonna go into the second one, which is gonna be how to angle my jab and use my body rotation to make this technique work. So quite often we try to get creative and find a way for the other person to move their hand out of the way. But this one, I'm gonna literally throw my jab, but instead of throwing it straight forward, I'm gonna throw it a little bit off to the side. So if instead of jabbing at them here, I'd be jabbing over here towards this eye or this ear a little bit. Now, this doesn't seem like it'll be very helpful, but as I do that, all I'm gonna do is pick up my front foot and allow my body to turn towards them. So if I go slow, as I'm punching, I'm gonna step front foot over to this direction and then just rotate. So I'm not gonna be trying to close the gap really big, but I'm gonna be throwing my punch, and then this foot is gonna follow, and I'm gonna slide over. So the hard part with this is not going like this, or making it 2 separate techniques. It's really smooth when we get it down. I wanna step and twist at the same time. So as soon as this foot is touching the floor, my body rotates and my back foot will just slide over to the side. The reason this is so helpful is that if I throw my jab in straight, they're going to be able to block it really easily. If I throw it off to the side, their hand has to move further to block that technique. So if you're punching here and I block like this, and then you punch over here, my block has to travel further. So now this time, I'm not getting closer to you with my jab. I'm making your block harder to get to my technique. All right, so this is just one to play around with. Punch more off of your shoulder like you're gonna miss them. But as you rotate your body, it'll naturally turn your punch right into that opening and land that technique very easily. All right, technique number 3, this is gonna go back to footwork. So one of the things I like to do a lot is I do a lot of just weird stuff.
I'm a weirdo.
So in my opinion, if I can get the other person kind of thinking like, what is he doing or what's he trying to set me up for, they're in their own brain trying to figure things out about me. And when they're doing that, they can't figure out their own strategy as easily. So if they're always trying to dissect my motions and figure out why, then they're having a hard time strategizing their own ideas of how to land. Okay, so I'll do a lot of motions where I'm kind of stepping off to the side and splitting my feet and faking and doing all this stuff to make them pull out of their element. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do what we call a split step. My body's gonna stay pretty much in the same spot, and I'm just going to switch this way. Okay, so from the side, my front foot will go to my back side, and my back foot will go to my front side, like this. And really simple, just like this. Now, quite often I'll push out my front hand as I do that, and this is just a big motion that doesn't put you in too much danger. So it's not where I'm like diving in or anything like that. You're staying at a distance, and I'm just doing this. It's a big enough motion to get their attention, but it's small enough where I'm not going to be like jumping in and getting countered really easily. So this is one you can usually do pretty safe. Just a little bit of a push or a pump fake and switch your stance. Now, this doesn't set you up. This is getting their brain used to this motion. All right, so usually the first time they go, what was that? All right, so you go like this and they go, whoa, hold on, that was weird. The second time they go, okay, this guy is just weird, that's just what he does. Third time, they're either going to try to counter you or they're most likely just not gonna react as much. So right from here, I'm gonna fake, move around a little bit, right, we'll fake. Now on the third one, instead of 1, 2, same spot, I'm gonna go up slightly, up, and then I'm gonna throw my technique right afterwards. So all I'm doing is the switch step, kind of gets you used to it, and then when I come back, it's almost like the first one where this back foot is just up closer. So if my back foot right here is on this line, when I switch, now I'm up just a few inches closer, and it gives me that advantage of distance where it's kind of hidden. And they're also trying to figure out what the heck you're doing. All right, deceptive speed number 4. Now this is one that is a little bit more for the advanced belts, the experienced competitors. It's an awesome idea, it's an awesome concept, but it is a little bit dangerous if you're not doing it properly. It puts you into a little bit of a dangerous position if you're not used to it, okay? So when we're here, my body is bladed sideways, which is where I want to be to lessen my target area and keep my hands being able to press in front like this. My jab can only twist a certain amount. So even if I twist in, I don't have a lot of reserve hip rotation here or shoulder rotation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna subtly sink my hips forward and down. Okay, now it looks really small, but it is really, really effective. Now, again, if I do this wrong and I square up, you're gonna get a huge opening to hit me in the chest, the solar plexus, and I'm gonna be in a world of trouble. All right, so as we do this, I don't wanna square up like this, but I want to let my hips drop forward. Now, the reason for this is if my hips are forward, everything above my hips is closer to the target. All right, so if I'm here and I throw my jab like this, and then I set my hips in a little bit, now when I twist, I have a little bit more of a reach advantage, and this one is extremely effective if you apply it correctly. But as I mentioned, if you do it wrong, you're gonna put yourself right in the line of fire. So if you watch me go, I'm here, I'm moving, maybe I do a little bit of that switch step that I did earlier, right? And you don't really see it, but my hips already went from here to this position, all right? Now, if you're looking really close, you look at kind of the distance between my knees from what you can see that motion if you're looking super close. But in an actual fight, it's gonna be so hard to pick up on that. So I'm gonna be moving around, kind of get my hands, kind of getting your attention, and then I'm already in that position. This back knee is kind of pushing forward, my hips are in a little bit, but my shoulders are staying back. Now this is great for a jab, but it's also great to come over the top with a right hand. All right, number 5, and this is the one I mentioned at the beginning of the video that is insanely effective, and it actually took both of us by surprise when I first landed it. The idea is that if I throw my jab and then my reverse punch, the jab has to go from where it is to this distance here, right? So this is the target. It has a short distance to travel, and then my reverse punch has a long distance to travel. So it doesn't make sense for me to throw them at 2 different times. Think about a relay race, right? If the person who's about to grab onto the baton is standing still, they're gonna have a disadvantage. So you'll notice as they're passing the baton, the other one will start running to be able to pick it up as they go. So we're gonna take the same idea with this reverse punch. I'm going to throw my jab, but at the same time, I'm gonna let my reverse punch kind of sneak under the radar here. Now we don't want to square up our shoulders like this, because this is just weird and it's gonna leave you wide open for all sorts of terrible things, right? So I don't want to twist for this reverse punch. My intent, my focus, all of everything that I do is focused on this jab. But as I do that, my reverse punch is just gonna go from here to here. All right, so the good news is that as you're blocking this jab, your arm usually covers your view of my reverse punch. Now, by the end of my jab, my reverse punch has just covered this much distance already. So instead of throwing 1 and 2 from all the way back here, I'm throwing 1 and it's almost like a half of a punch. But since my body's still going in, you still have a really strong, really devastating reverse punch, but it's just a little bit sneakier. So as I go, instead of 1, 2, 1, 2 this way, I'm gonna let that one sneak out, 1, 2. And you'll notice that both hands come out, and then whack, this reverse punch rotates right at the end. We're gonna give them just enough time to pick off that jab before this slides right underneath. And you don't even need to rotate your fist over on this one. I actually find it's really nice to keep my thumb vertically so that my elbow is bent so it can slide underneath their block a little bit easier. If I rotate this over, this is a straight line, and their arm is in a better position for them to block me. But if I keep this arm here, I can bring that punch up underneath their lead hand, and it's a really, really effective way to hide that reverse punch. All right, so this will go really well with that invisible reverse punch video that I put out a little while ago, so check that out. I'll toss a card or a link down below. But anyway, these are just fun to train. I wanted to give you these before we headed out and headed to Hawaii. I will put the link down below for the Kumite review if anybody's interested. That's where, if you want, you can send me a video and I'll review your Kumite on the channel. Like I said, if you're unable to go to competitions right now, send me videos from your last ones, and that way you can improve while you're waiting to get back in the game. All right, thank you all so much. Have an awesome time training. Have a great day, and we will see you in the next video. Peace.